Hello, N4HNH here with the Yaesu FT-991A. This video is going to be dedicated to the 991A, and there's a reason for that. I've been shooting a series about the FT-DX10, which you see sitting here, and I'm going to turn it off because this video is going to be all about the transmit audio settings on the FT-991A because, well, I get requests for that, and I've shot videos and posted videos about the FT-891, my transmit audio settings for it, which, I don't know if you've not seen that video. It is interesting that the transmit audio settings for the FT-891 for using its hand mic also work well with the Yaesu MD100 desk mic, which is convenient. So this 991A belongs to my friend Joel, KC4WZB, who has loaned me the FT-DX10, the FT-991A, and the ICOM IC7300 that I've been using in this series of videos I've been shooting about the FT-DX10, and we did some comparison videos between it and other radios. And thank you to my friend Joel, KC4WZB, for making these radios available to help out the amateur community. I'm going to zoom in so you can see the screen very well. You'll notice on the FT-991A that across the bottom here, you can set up your metering. RF power is always displayed, mic gain. So I want to draw your attention to mic gain. So first of all, 52 is where Joel and I have found. We set this radio up with his voice and, until it sounded natural, until I knew that he sounded the way I expect him to sound. And so we found the mic gain of 52 worked. And let me show you the microphone. This is the famous, I don't know, but it's the microphone that Yaesu has shipped with many of their radios, the MH31. But what I want you to see is on the back, there's a switch. And I always run this switch in position 2, high emphasis. Position 1 is, you could say, normal or more of a low emphasis. But position 2 will help with clarity. It'll help give you a little bit more punch in your audio. And this is two-way radio, not broadcast, so we're not trying to sound like, an FM broadcaster that's playing music. This is two-way radio, so we need punch. So position 2 for that microphone is one of the first things I do. I've even used position 2 on my old Yaesu FT-890 that I ran mobile for many years. I use position 2 with my FT-891. So mic gain 52, position 2 on the back of the microphone, and then we'll get into the menu settings. So we'll press, from the main screen here, you want to hit menu setup, second button down here, and go to menu 110 first. That is where we set our transmit bandpass filter. And you'll notice, I'm going to press select, you have options of 100 to 3000. That's a very wide transmit audio. I wouldn't recommend that. 100 to 2900, perhaps, but 200 to 2800, 300 to 2700, those will give you much more punch. And then, of course, there's a final setting of 400 to 2600. That's going to be very thin sounding, almost like a telephone type audio. So I found that with Joel's voice, when we were setting this up, that 300 to 2700 was a good place that would give you a compromise of enough punch, but also sound comfortable, sound good. Now, so menu 110, 300 to 2700. If you were going to try anything else, let's say you got a high-pitched voice and you want to add, a little more depth to your voice, then maybe consider the 200 to 2800 bandwidth. You really don't want to run this wide because a lot of people don't realize this, but the more wide you run, the less efficient your transmitter actually is going to operate. I recommend the 300 to 2700. Now, we're going to hit enter and leave it there. And then the next menus we're going to go to start at 119. Parametric EQ 1 frequency, 300. Okay, let me move that up so you can see. So this radio has a 3-band parametric EQ that we can use to tailor our transmit audio. Now, these settings I'm showing you will get you close, maybe, but your voice is going to be different, so you may tweak it from there. But these will at least get you close. And I have had some people tell me that my settings for the 5000 and the 891 work perfect for them. So, I mean, they may have similar voices to me. I don't know. But here we go. 300 hertz is what we're going to set the first parametric EQ to. And then what are we going to do with the 300 hertz? Well, boost it by 5 dB. How wide do we want that boost to be? 10. So in other words, we're setting the bandwidth. How broad of a frequency range above and below 300 do we want to affect? All right, so next is parametric EQ2, and we set that at 900 hertz, but we're going to effectively scoop that, see, -5. So we're going to press select and move it down to -5. Now, you might be wondering, well, why would we do that? Well, we found that, with it boosting or even sitting at 0 there, the mids were just a little too shrill, too much. So, again, -5 at 900 hertz. So then, and a bandwidth on that is also going to be 10. And then the last one here is parametric EQ3 at 2000 hertz, and we're boosting that by 3 dB, and we set the width also at 10. So those are the parameters for transmit audio for regular transmit audio. Now let me explain. The next one down will say P- parametric. That's what that stands for, EQ1. This radio has 2 different sets of parametric EQs, one for with the processor turned on and one without. So the radio has what's called a speech processor. Many radios have it. Today, some call it compression or a compressor. It essentially accomplishes the same thing. It's helping hold the peaks of your voice up a little higher. It adds some punch to your audio. Some would liken it to, almost sounding like you turned on an amplifier. But you have to be very careful with speech processors because, you can have too much of a good thing and then it messes your audio up. You sound, distorted or overdriven, and you don't want to do that. It can cause you to splatter. So, we're going to have a separate set of parameters for when we're running the processor. Now, when would you decide to run the processor or not? Here's an example, and the parameters I'm about to show you will be for this scenario. For casual rag chew, you don't use the processor. But when you're trying to break through a DX pileup, then that's where the processor can come in handy. It gives you that extra punch, accentuates the highs in your voice, which is going to be that range of your voice where you're most intelligible, and helps you be heard through the pileup. And you'd be surprised that a 100-watt radio can break a pileup when it's set up right, even if the other stations that you're competing with are running amplifiers. Okay, so for parametric EQ1, for when the processor is engaged, 500 hertz. Although, look at this, we're not even boosting it. Now, I'll tell you how that happened. We were playing around with it, and we had 500, and then we realized that we didn't even really need to boost it. But if you wanted to add just a little bit more bottom end back into your voice, you could do it at 500, and then go ahead and maybe consider hitting the select here and boosting it a couple of dB. Okay, but like I said, starting point. What we're mostly doing with this EQ, I'll just tell you, we're mostly accentuating the highs. So the next setting is parametric, and again, bandwidth 2. So 500, 0, and 2. So effectively, we're not doing really anything with that one. Now, parametric EQ2 for with processor, P-parametric EQ2, 1500 hertz. But again, look, we didn't end up doing anything with it. It's zeroed. So we didn't boost or cut. We have it ready, though, in case we felt like we needed it. So you see, you can make all these changes here, but if you've got the level set at 0, it doesn't matter the frequency or bandwidth. But here's where we made some changes. Parametric EQ3 for with processor, 2800 hertz, and we're boosting it 7, and that's on a scale of, let me show you, that's on a scale up to 10. So that's a pretty heavy boost. And bandwidth 1, that's with this radio. I've got other radios I've set up where I boosted 2400 hertz instead. But again, Joel and I just set this up, and it ended up where it did. But you can, of course, tailor this to your own voice, and you might find that for you, 2400 works better, or maybe even 2500, 2300. But the idea here is to boost that high frequency in your voice so it punches through the pileup. And so that, again, the bandwidth we're leaving at 1. So that's the EQ settings. And don't forget, menu 110, either set that at the 300 to 2700 or 200 to 2800. Those are my recommendations. Now we're going to back out of this menu, and I want to show you something else that you have to do. This time you go into the function menu, mic EQ on. Now, be very careful. You can make all those adjustments that I just showed you in the menu, in the big menu, I would say, the main menu here, and it'll have no effect on your transmit audio unless you remember to go into the function menu and turn the mic EQ on. So that's very important. I've known people, make all those adjustments to the EQs, and people kept saying, well, I can't hear any difference. I can't hear any difference. You've got to have the mic EQ enabled. And then here, this is processor. So if I'm just in a rag chew, I'll leave processor off. But if I'm going to try to punch a DX pileup, I'll tap the processor button and engage it. And when you engage it, it'll show you what its current setting is. And it'll also show up here processor, so you know that now if you turn the multi-knob, you are adjusting the processor. And we found that 30 works well. See, that's what I meant. How you can have too much of a good thing. Look at this. It will go all the way to 100. Trust me. If you run with a speech processor set at 100, you're going to sound terrible. So we found 30 yielded the best punch without being too much. It's like people that say, well, hey, I've got this amplified microphone left over from a CB radio. Should I use it on my ham radio? Not that you couldn't, but you don't need the amplifier. You can have too much of a good thing. So be very careful with the processor. And again, typically processor off for rag chew. Oh, I want to break a pile up, tap that, and have the processor engaged. And we found that a setting of 30 on the processor worked out best of all. It's a good idea to get a friend who knows you personally, who knows what you sound like in person, to help you tailor your transmit audio. And, I usually try to go for how do I really sound in person, at least for the non-processor-based EQ. Now, when you engage the processor, you are intentionally altering your voice a little bit to try, if you're doing it the way I'm doing it, where you're using it to break a pile up. And so let me... I'm on the dummy load. Hello, N4 H&H testing. So there we go. I hope you found the video helpful and informative, and enjoy your FT-991A. If you've been watching the series, you already know that the FT-991A is a boss of a radio, and even compared to the FT-DX10, the newest kid on the block, the 991A holds its own, and plus it's got some things that the FT-DX10 does not have, and that is, well, it's a shack in the box, as we say. It can do 2 meters, 70 centimeters, C4 FM, of course, HF, 6 meters. It's got backlit buttons. And, hey, the receiver is no slouch. If you haven't watched the video I loaded a few days ago where we see the FT-991A and the FT-DX10 receiving weak signals, I think those of you who own an FT-991A will be proud. And again, click the bell so that you'll be notified of future uploads. I'm going to be featuring that video where we have the FT-991A and the FT-DX10 receiving, in fact, the frequency you see right there. There was a net going on that frequency, and somebody moved in a half kc up, literally moved in at 248. And you'll see these two radios do the best job they can to be able to hear under those type of conditions. And it may surprise you that you can set a radio to deal with that sort of a scenario. Okay, thanks again for watching, and thank you Patreons for helping me keep this channel going. Your support is so much appreciated. I want to thank Jonathan, my newest Patreon. I appreciate you helping out, Jonathan, so we can continue to have content like this. You know me, I just try to get in here with the radios and real world scenarios and teach operating techniques, but we have a little fun here from time to time as well. And of course, if you're not a Patreon, we invite you to do that. www.patreon.com, patreon.com/N4HNH. And I should also mention that if you're not already a subscriber to the channel, that helps. And of course, if you like the video, that helps. And again, click the bell so you'll be notified when the next video is uploaded. Okay, hey, thanks a lot for watching, and this is N4HNH saying 73.